In the sleepy town of Eldermore, nestled in a forgotten corner of New England, the old Marwood house stood abandoned on a hill. Its sagging roof and peeling paint, a grim reminder of tragedies past. Locals whispered of strange occurrences, lights flickering in empty windows, footsteps echoing where no one walked. Most avoided the place, but for Sarah Linden, a young journalist seeking a breakout story, the house was an irresistible mystery. Drawn by rumors of a malevolent presence, she moved into the decrepit Victorian with a notebook, a camera, and a stubborn refusal to believe in ghosts. What she found was no ordinary haunting. Something ancient and unyielding lurked in the attic, watching, waiting, and weaving a web of dread that would unravel her sanity. This is the story of Sarah's descent into terror, told in 10 chilling parts, each revealing a new layer of the horror that dwells above. Sarah Linden arrived in Eldermore on a gray October afternoon, the air heavy with the promise of rain. The Marwood house loomed before her, its warped clapboards groaning under the weight of decades. At 27, Sarah was ambitious, skeptical, and desperate to prove herself after years of writing fluff pieces for a local paper. The house, she'd heard, was a gold mine of stories. A double murder in 1923, a suicide in the 60s, and whispers of a watcher in the attic. She rented the place for a month, planning to document its history for a feature that might land her a job at a major outlet. The interior was a time capsule of neglect, dust-coated furniture, faded wallpaper, and a pervasive smell of mildew. Sarah set up her laptop in the parlor, ignoring the chill that seemed to seep from the walls. Upstairs, she found 7 bedrooms, each more decrepit than the last, and a narrow staircase leading to a locked attic door. The realtor had warned her not to bother with it. Just storage and the keys long lost. But Sarah's curiosity burned. That night, as she unpacked, she heard a faint creak from above, like footsteps pacing in the attic. She dismissed it as the house settling, but sleep came uneasily, her dreams haunted by the image of a shadowed figure peering down from a crack in the ceiling. The next morning, Sarah began her research, poring over old newspaper clippings about the Marwood family. In 1923, Eliza Marwood and her daughter, Clara, were found dead in the parlor, their throats slashed. The killer was never caught, though suspicion fell on Eliza's husband, who vanished that same night. The articles mentioned strange details, neighbors hearing whispers from the attic, and Clara's diary describing a thing that watches me when I sleep. Sarah shivered, glancing at the ceiling. It was just a story, she told herself. But as dusk fell, the creaking returned, louder, more deliberate, like something testing the floorboards above. By the 3rd day, Sarah had settled into a routine. Mornings spent interviewing locals, afternoons combing through archives, and evenings alone in the house. The townsfolk were reluctant to talk about the Marwood place, offering vague warnings to leave it be. An elderly librarian, Mrs. Harrow, was more forthcoming. "That house ain't right," she said, her eyes darting nervously. "Folks say the attic holds something, not human. It watches, always has." Sarah pressed for details, but Mrs. Harrow clammed up, muttering about curses. Back at the house, Sarah noticed small disturbances. Her notebook, left open on the dining table, was found closed. A glass of water she'd placed in the kitchen appeared in the hallway. She blamed her own absent-mindedness, but the unease grew. That night, as she typed up her notes, a low hum filled the air, not mechanical, but almost vocal, like a chant too soft to decipher. It seemed to come from above. Heart pounding, Sarah climbed the stairs to the attic door, pressing her ear against the wood. The hum stopped abruptly, replaced by a single, sharp thump, as if something heavy had shifted just beyond the door. She tried the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Frustrated, she returned to her room, only to find her camera on the floor, its lens cracked. The memory card held a single new photo, time-stamped an hour earlier. A blurry image of the attic door, taken from the inside. Sarah's breath caught. She hadn't been up there. No one had. She deleted the photo, telling herself it was a glitch, but sleep eluded her, the hum returning in the small hours, now laced with what sounded like a whispered word. Her name. Determined to debunk the growing sense of dread, Sarah decided to access the attic. She borrowed a crowbar from a hardware store and spent the morning prying at the door. The wood was ancient, splintering under her efforts, but the lock held firm, as if reinforced by something beyond metal. Sweat-soaked and frustrated, she gave up, only to hear a faint scratching from the other side, like nails dragging across wood. She froze, the crowbar slipping from her hand. The scratching grew rhythmic, deliberate, then stopped, leaving a silence so thick it pressed against her ears. That afternoon, she visited the town archives, uncovering a 1960s police report about the house's last occupant, a recluse named Thomas Varn. He'd hanged himself in the attic, leaving a note that read, "It won't let me leave." The report noted odd details, claw marks on the attic walls, and a mirror found shattered, its pieces arranged in a spiral. Sarah's stomach churned. She hadn't seen a mirror in the house, but the description matched a recurring dream she'd had since moving in. A mirror reflecting not her face, but a shadowed figure with too many limbs. That night, the house seemed alive with sounds, creaks, whispers, and a faint tapping, like fingers on glass. Sarah checked every window, finding nothing. Exhausted, she fell asleep on the couch, only to wake at 3 a.m. to a new sound. A slow, deliberate creak, like the attic door opening. She grabbed a flashlight and climbed the stairs, her pulse hammering. The door was still closed, still locked, but a faint draft carried the scent of decay. On the floor, she found a single, rusted key, its teeth worn smooth. It hadn't been there before. The key became Sarah's obsession. It didn't fit the attic lock or any lock in the house, yet its presence felt like a taunt. She kept it in her pocket, its weight a constant reminder of the mystery. Her research uncovered more. A 19th century journal from a Marwood ancestor describing a pact with something in the attic, a being that promised knowledge in exchange for sight. The journal ended abruptly, its final page smeared with what looked like blood. Sarah's dreams grew worse. Each night she saw the mirror, its surface rippling like water, the shadowed figure within reaching for her. She woke, gasping, her reflection in the bathroom mirror seeming off, her eyes too dark, her smile too wide. During the day, she felt watched, the sensation strongest when she passed the attic stairs. She began avoiding the second floor, sleeping in the parlor, but the sounds followed, whispers, scratches, and that maddening hum. One evening, while searching the basement for clues, she found a cracked oval mirror hidden behind a pile of crates. Its frame was carved with strange symbols, like eyes within eyes. Heart racing, she covered it with a tarp and dragged it upstairs, determined to confront the house's secrets. As she passed the attic door, the key in her pocket grew warm, almost burning. She tried it again in the lock, and this time it turned with a sickening click. The door swung open, revealing a narrow staircase, cloaked in darkness. A voice, not hers, not human, whispered from above, "See me." Sarah's flashlight beam trembled as she climbed the attic stairs, each step creaking under her weight. The air grew colder, thicker, carrying a metallic tang. At the top, the attic was a cavernous space, its rafters draped in cobwebs, the floor littered with broken furniture. In the center stood a mirror identical to the one in the basement, its surface gleaming despite the dust. Her reflection stared back, but it moved slightly out of sync, its eyes unblinking. She approached, drawn by an urge she couldn't explain. The mirror's symbols pulsed faintly and the hum returned, louder, vibrating in her bones. Her reflection spoke, its voice a guttural rasp. You wanted to know. Sarah stumbled back, her flashlight flickering. Shadows moved in the corners, coiling like smoke. She turned to flee, but the attic door slammed shut, the lock clicking into place. The key was gone from her pocket. Panic set in as the temperature plummeted. The shadows thickened, forming a vague shape, tall, angular, with too many limbs. It didn't move, but she felt its gaze, heavy and ancient. The mirror's surface rippled, showing not the attic but a void, endless and black, with countless eyes staring back. Sarah screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the hum, now a deafening chorus of voices chanting her name. She collapsed, clutching her head, as the thing in the shadows whispered, "Stay." Sarah woke on the attic floor, her flashlight dead, the mirror dark. The door was open again, but the key was nowhere to be found. Her phone showed no signal, its battery draining unnaturally fast. She stumbled downstairs, her mind foggy, her body aching. The house felt different, smaller, as if the walls had shifted closer. Her notebook was open to a page she hadn't written, filled with scrawled symbols like those on the mirror. Below them, in her handwriting, were the words, "It sees you now." She tried to leave, but the front door wouldn't open. Windows were stuck, their glass cloudy as if frosted from within. The phone line was dead, and her laptop displayed only static. Desperate, she returned to the attic, hoping to confront the thing. The mirror was gone, but the shadows remained. Denser now, their edges sharper. She felt a pull, like a thread tugging at her mind, urging her to speak. Against her will, words spilled out. "What do you want?" The air pulsed, and the shadows answered, not in words, but in images flooding her mind, a ritual, a blood offering, a promise of knowledge. The Marwoods had made a pact with the thing centuries ago, trading their sight, literal and metaphorical, for glimpses of forbidden truths. Those who broke the pact, like Eliza and Clara, paid with their lives. Sarah realized she'd been chosen, her curiosity a beacon for the thing that watched. It wanted her to renew the pact, to offer her sight. In return, it promised answers to every question she'd ever had. The temptation was overwhelming, but so was the dread. Days blurred into nights, the house a prison of shadows and whispers. Sarah stopped eating, her hunger drowned by fear. She barricaded herself in the parlor, avoiding the attic, but the thing's presence seeped through the walls. Objects moved on their own, chairs sliding, doors creaking open, her camera capturing images of empty rooms with faint humanoid shapes in the background. The hum never stopped, now laced with her name, spoken in voices she recognized, her mother's, her childhood friends, her own. She tried to fight it, writing down everything to stay grounded. But her notes became incoherent, filled with pleas. "It's in my head. It sees everything." One night, she found the mirror in the parlor, though she'd left it in the basement. Her reflection grinned, its teeth too sharp, its eyes hollow. She smashed the mirror, but the shards reassembled, the symbols glowing brighter. The thing's voice grew clearer. "Give me your sight and you'll see all." Sarah's sanity frayed. She saw the thing everywhere, in shadows, in reflections, in the corners of her vision. It was tall, insect-like, its limbs bending unnaturally, its eyes countless and unblinking. It didn't attack, didn't touch her, but its gaze was a weight, crushing her will. She considered the pact, the promise of knowledge, but the memory of Clara's diary, her terror, her plea, kept her from agreeing. Yet the thing was patient, eternal, and it knew she was breaking. On the 10th night, Sarah could resist no longer. The thing's whispers had become her thoughts, its will entwining with hers. She climbed to the attic, carrying a kitchen knife, her movements mechanical. The mirror was back, its surface a swirling void. The thing stood before it, no longer a shadow but a tangible horror, limbs like twisted branches, eyes like stars in a dead sky. It didn't speak, but its intent was clear: complete the ritual, or be consumed. Sarah cut her palm, blood dripping onto the attic floor. The symbols on the mirror flared, and the hum became a scream. She spoke the words it fed her, ancient and guttural, each syllable tearing at her soul. The void in the mirror opened wider, pulling at her, promising truths no human mind could hold. She saw glimpses, cities of bone, skies of fire, the thing's true form spanning eons. Her vision blurred, her eyes burning as if melting. The pact was sealing, her sight fading, when a memory of Clara's diary flashed. Resist, or it owns you forever. With a scream, Sarah drove the knife into the mirror. The glass shattered, the void collapsing, and the thing howled, its form fracturing. The attic shook, beams cracking, as the thing retreated into the shadows, its eyes still watching. Sarah collapsed, blood pooling around her, her vision intact but her mind scarred. The house was silent, but she knew it wasn't over. Sarah fled the attic, the house trembling as if alive. Doors unlocked, windows cleared, and she stumbled outside, gasping in the cold night air. The Marwood house stood unchanged, its windows dark, but she felt the thing's gaze from the attic, weakened but not gone. She drove to the nearest motel, her hands shaking, her mind replaying the ritual's horrors. Her phone worked again, but the photos from the house were gone, replaced by a single image. Her own face, eyes hollow, staring from the attic window. She sent her notes to her editor, claiming illness, and vowed never to return. But the thing's whispers lingered, faint but persistent in her dreams. She saw the mirror, the void, the eyes. She avoided reflective surfaces, fearing what she'd see. The article was never published. Her editor called it unhinged, but Sarah couldn't let it go. She researched obsessively, finding references to the thing in ancient texts, a watcher from beyond, bound to places of pain, feeding on curiosity and fear. Months later, she learned the house had burned down, the cause unknown. Locals claimed the fire started in the attic, but no remains were found. Sarah wanted to believe it was over, but at night she heard the hum, felt the weight of unseen eyes. The thing had marked her, and distance meant nothing to something that existed beyond time. Sarah moved across the country, hoping to escape the thing's reach. She took a desk job, avoiding journalism, but the scars remained. Her eyes ached in dim light, and mirrors seemed to shimmer at the edges. She saw it sometimes, a shadow in a crowd, a flicker in a window, always watching. Therapists called it PTSD, but she knew better. The thing hadn't died in the fire. It had followed her, patient, eternal. She wrote her story in secret, a 4,500-word manuscript she never shared, hoping to warn others. The Marwood house was gone, but the thing could find other places, other curious souls. Sarah lived cautiously, avoiding old houses, dark attics, and mirrors. But the hum persisted, a reminder that the pact was never fully broken. The thing that watches from the attic was still out there, waiting for her to look up, to meet its gaze, to see. The horror of the Marwood house lies not in its walls or its history, but in the thing that dwells above, a presence that feeds on the human need to know. Sarah Linden sought truth and found terror. Her curiosity a key that unlocked a door best left closed. Her story is a warning. Some mysteries are not meant to be solved. Some watchers not meant to be seen. The thing in the attic remains, its eyes unblinking, its patience infinite. And somewhere, in another forgotten house, it waits for the next soul to climb the stairs, to look into the void, and to offer their sight.